Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. Eleven coal miners have been killed after terrorists opened fire at them at a coal field in Pakistan's southwestern Balochistan province. A spokesperson for the provincial government said 4 others were seriously injured in the attack in the Mach town. Condemning the attack, Prime Minister Imran Khan called it a cowardly, inhuman act of terrorism. He ordered the security forces to apprehend the killers and bring them to justice. At least 56 civilians have been killed after terrorists attacked 2 villages in southwestern Niger. The Interior Ministry said 20 others were injured during the attacks in the villages near the Malian border. Meanwhile, the French presidency said 2 of its soldiers were killed in an Al-Qaeda attack in Mali. A group of U.S. senators says they will refuse to certify Joe Biden's election win. Led by Ted Cruz, the senators demand a 10-day delay to audit the unsubstantiated allegations of mass electoral fraud. Meanwhile, a federal appeals court has rejected a Republican lawmaker's bid to allow Vice President Mike Pence to overturn Biden's victory. The Congress is set to certify President-elect Biden's win in the January 6 vote. The United States has distributed over 13 million doses of the coronavirus vaccine so far as the country's death toll near 350,000. In Pakistan, 53 more people died from COVID-19, while over 2,200 contracted the disease over the past 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed over 1.8 million lives, infecting more than 84.5 million people so far. And in cricket, New Zealand have bowled out Pakistan for 297 in their first innings of the second Test match in Christchurch. Earlier, Azhar Ali top scored for the Green Caps, missing out on a well-deserved century, scoring 93, while New Zealand's Kyle Jamieson has taken 5 wickets. New Zealand lead the 2 Test series 1-0. Well, these were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back, and now the news in detail. 11 coal miners have been killed after terrorists opened fire at them at a coal field in Pakistan's southwestern Balochistan province. 4 others were seriously injured in the attack in the Mach town. Police said the attackers abducted the miners and took them to the nearby hills where they were fired at. Condemning the attack, Prime Minister Imran Khan called it a cowardly, inhuman act of terrorism. He ordered the security forces to apprehend the killers and bring them to justice. The Prime Minister said the families of the victims will not be left abandoned by the government. Provincial government spokesperson Qasem said authorities are probing the incident to determine the responsible. Police and paramilitary forces have cordoned off the mining field. The Pakistan Army has shot down an Indian spy quadcopter after it intruded 500 meters into the Pakistani territory. The quadcopter was shot down in the Chakhoti sector along the line of control. According to the military's media wing, this is the second Indian quadcopter shot down in 3 days. Last year, the Pakistan Army shot down 16 Indian spying drones. Now moving on to India, protesting farmers have sent legal notices to 3 government leaders over derogatory remarks. The BJP members had commented on the ongoing protest outside the capital, New Delhi. Union Minister Giriraj Singh, Gujarat Deputy Chief Minister Nitin Patel and Ram Madhav were sent notices. Meanwhile, a third farmer has committed suicide at the Ghazipur protest site over the centre's farm laws. The unions have announced a tractor march on Republic Day towards Delhi if the government doesn't accept their demands. Farmers have camped around the Delhi border for 37 days amid rain and cold. An American woman has taken Indian authorities to the task over granting bail to her rapist. The woman was raped by her Indian landlord in New Delhi. The woman protested outside the Indian consulate in San Francisco. She said police gave bails to convicted criminals, making Indian women more unsafe. The criminal, identified as Rajiv Panor, was the nephew of Delhi's mayor. He raped the woman in 2013 in New Delhi, but recently got bailed. The victim said she will continue to fight against the system which protects the rapists. An Indian tourist has been arrested for sexually forcing an Afghan teen in the capital, Kabul. Afghan police say last week's incident came to light after a video went viral on social media. Police said the accused threatened the girl of consequences if she told anyone. They said efforts were being made to prevent further circulation of the video online. This was not the first incident of sexual abuse by an Indian in Afghanistan. Earlier, a defense attaché posted in Indian embassy in Kabul, Brigadier S.K. Narayan, was expelled from Kabul over rape charges. In southwestern Niger, 56 civilians have been killed and another 20 wounded after gunmen attacked 2 villages. Interior Minister Al-Qasem Al-Hada says soldiers have been sent to reinforce the area near the border with Mali. He said it is not yet clear who is responsible for the assaults. The violence follows the announcement of results from the first round of Niger's presidential election. The ruling party's Mohamed Bazoum secured 39% of the vote, while former President Ousmane backed 17%. Falling short of the 50% of the vote needed to win, the two will now face off in the second round in February. In Mali, 2 French soldiers have been killed and another was injured when their vehicle hit an improvised explosive device. Al-Qaeda's North Africa wing has claimed responsibility for the attack. In a statement, the French military said the soldiers were on a reconnaissance mission in the eastern region of Menaka. The presidency said the injured soldier's life was not in danger. The attack comes less than a week after 3 French soldiers were killed in Mali's southern region of Hambouri. The soldiers in both incidents were part of France's Barkhane military operations in Mali against the militants. As Iranians commemorate one of their most valued military assets, General Qasem Soleimani, on his first death anniversary today. We take a look back at the events that unfolded over the year following Soleimani's killing and how they impacted the world as we know it. Details in the following report.
On this day last year, Iran's most powerful and influential general, Qasem Soleimani, was assassinated in a drone strike while he was visiting Iraq's capital, Baghdad. The world leaders and international organizations scrambled to prevent an all-out war. Head of the intelligence and extraterritorial operations for Tehran, the slain commander was considered second only to the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Outraged, Tehran responded 5 days later on January 8th, hitting U.S. base in Iraq, claiming the death of over 80 U.S. soldiers. The Pentagon initially denied any harm to its troops, but President Donald Trump later admitted dozens of U.S. soldiers from Iraq that had sustained what he called brain injuries. Trump, however, did not reciprocate with military might and imposed crippling sanctions on an already troubled Iranian economy.
As we continue to evaluate options in response to Iranian aggression, the United States will immediately impose additional punishing economic sanctions on the Iranian regime.
In the heat of the escalation, Iran's air defense systems mistakenly shot down a Ukrainian airliner, identifying it as a U.S. response, killing all 176 passengers on board. Tehran has announced 10 days of mourning on Qasem Soleimani's first death anniversary, with fresh accusations on Germany and Britain for playing a role in his assassination. Iran's Defense Minister Brigadier General Amir Hatami has vowed to avenge Lieutenant General Qasem Soleimani. Meanwhile, Washington insiders fear President Trump might launch an attack on Iran in the dying days of his presidency.
A group of 11 U.S. senators say they will refuse to certify Joe Biden's election win. Led by Ted Cruz, the senators demand a 10-day delay to audit the unsubstantiated allegations of mass electoral fraud.
The Republican senators released a statement saying the election featured unprecedented allegations of voter fraud and other irregularities. The senators urged the Congress to appoint a commission to oversee the emergency 10-day audit. The move is unlikely to succeed, as most senators are expected to endorse Biden's win over Trump. A group of Republicans in the House of Representatives is also planning to contest the election results. Meanwhile, a federal appeals court has rejected a Republican lawmaker's bid to allow Vice President Mike Pence to overturn Biden's victory. The Congress is set to certify President-elect Biden's win in the January 6th vote. Trump supporters have also announced mass rallies and protests in Washington on the same day.
The UN-led Libyan Political Dialogue Forum has announced its 18-member core advisory committee. The committee aims to select a unified executive to ensure the elections on December 24, 2021. Acting UN Special Representative Stephanie Williams says the body is both geographically and politically diverse. Williams also thanked the Libyan Political Dialogue Forum for its constructive participation in submitting the 28 nominations. The Dialogue Forum seeks to implement a sustainable ceasefire in Libya and power sharing between the eastern and western factions. However, forces of the GNA government have repeatedly voiced concerns over delay by the eastern forces in decommissioning their bases. Now moving on to Somalia, a suicide car bomb has killed 4 people, including 2 Turkish nationals outside the capital, Mogadishu. In a tweet, Turkey's health minister said 14 people were wounded in the attack in the village of Lafol. Ankara's foreign ministry strongly condemned the attack and said it targeted employees of a Turkish company. A spokesperson for Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the attack. Turkey has been a major source of aid to Somalia following a famine in 2011. Thousands of Israelis protested against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem for the 28th straight week. They were demanding Netanyahu's resignation. The demonstrators rallied outside Netanyahu's official residence, blowing whistles, waving signs and flags. They slammed Netanyahu over his indictment for corruption and the government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Because the leadership is awful. We have to change the leader and to have a good country and good leadership as it was some years ago.
And now it's time to take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The U.S. has distributed over 13 million doses of the coronavirus vaccine so far, as the country's death toll nears 350,000. Details in the following report. As the world deals with the challenges of mass inoculation against the new coronavirus, the disease continues killing thousands and spreading faster than ever. In Latin America, Brazil has recorded 314 more deaths and nearly 16,000 new cases overnight. The nationwide death toll is approaching 196,000, with over 7 million infections. Mexico has registered 344 fatalities overnight, rising the country's death toll to nearly 127,000. In Africa, Zimbabwe has extended its nationwide curfew, shutting non-essential businesses for another month to curb a surge in infections. While Russia has green-lighted clinical trials, combining its Sputnik V vaccine with the AstraZeneca candidate. Britain has taken a more reluctant approach, allowing mixing on rare occasions, despite a lack of evidence of reduced immunity. Over in Australia, masks have been made mandatory even indoors in the largest city of Sydney.
There is a $200 fine for an individual who fails to comply with the health order in terms of the wearing of a mask from midnight tonight. However, that will be a last resort. We will use a very common sense approach to our policing and discretion where it's appropriate. As I've said earlier, the key focus for now is ensuring compliance.
Globally, the virus has claimed 1.8 million lives and infected 84.5 million people so far. Now moving on to Pakistan, 53 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This pushes the country's death toll to 10,311. The Health Ministry says 2,272 infections were detected overnight. Currently, there are more than 35,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. The ministry says out of 486,000 people infected so far, more than 440,000 have recovered. It said over 217,000 cases have been detected in the Sindh province, while Punjab has reported 140,000 cases so far. Now moving on to Norway, rescue workers have recovered a fourth body days after a landslide buried homes near the capital, Oslo. Police say they're searching for 6 people still missing. 3 bodies were found at the bleak, snow-covered Ask village on the same day. King Harold V is scheduled to visit the village today. The landslide destroyed several houses and shifted others hundreds of meters. More than 1,000 people have been evacuated. An official said up to 1,500 people may be moved from the area amid fears of further landslides. As the coronavirus pandemic has made people more aware about hygiene, a Japanese startup company has set up hand and smartphones washing stations in the streets of Tokyo to emphasize on better hygiene. Details in the following report.
Shoppers wash their hands and sterilize their smartphones in the streets of Tokyo's Posh Ginza district as Water Corp set up 20 of its wash machines near the Posh Ginza stores to prevent the spread of coronavirus. The initiative with the district association aims to encourage shoppers to wash their hands.
To be able to wash your hands wherever you are on the city, we thought we had to realize this as soon as possible amid the impact of COVID-19. So we sped up the development.
The machines don't require connection to running water and don't use fresh and wastewater tanks. Instead, they recycle the water through a 3-stage process of membrane filtration, chlorine and deep ultraviolet irradiation. On average, 20 liters of water provides around 500 washes and the filters should be changed after 2000. The machine also cleans smartphones using 20 to 30 seconds of ultraviolet light exposure. Touching a dirty phone would negate hand wash effort.
I use smartphones all the time, but I was not conscious that I don't sterilize it enough. It was good that this machine reminds me that we have to keep smartphones clean.
Vota has now begun shipments within Japan and aims to expand internationally next year.
China's first Mars probe has traveled more than 400 million kilometers. The China National Space Administration says Tianwen-1 is expected to enter Mars orbit next month. Beijing said the probe will be 190 million kilometers away from the Earth when it approaches Mars. It is currently at a distance of around 130 million kilometers from Earth and 8.3 million kilometers from the Red Planet. The spacecraft consists of an orbiter, a lander and a rover and is expected to touch down on Mars in May 2021. China launched Tianwen-1 on July 23rd, kicking off its independent planetary exploration mission. In cricket, New Zealand have bowled out Pakistan for 297 in their first innings of the second test match in Christchurch. New Zealand's Kyle Jamieson ripped through Pakistan's batting lineup, taking 5 wickets. The Kiwis won the toss and decided to field first Azhar Ali top scored for the Green Caps, missing out on a well-deserved century, scoring 93. Skipper Mohammad Rizwan scored 61 runs with Fahim Ashraf chipping in 48 to help Pakistan reach 297. Southee and Bolt took 2 wickets each while Matt Henry took 1. New Zealand will begin their first innings tomorrow. They lead the 2-test series 1-0. Pakistan Super League side Karachi Kings have appointed South African legend Herschel Gibbs as their new head coach. In a statement, the reigning champion said Gibbs has been signed on for his aggressive batting style and brilliant fielding skills. The appointment comes after former head coach Dean Jones died of a cardiac arrest in September last year. Gibbs says he is excited for his new role and hopeful of keeping the momentum going. The hard-hitting batsman made his debut in 1999 and represented South Africa for 15 years. After his international career, he played in various international 2020 leagues, most recently coaching at the Lanka Premier League. In football, Real Madrid have moved to the top of the Liga table with a comfortable 2-0 win over Celta Vigo. Lucas Vazquez gave Real the lead after just 6 minutes, heading home Marco Asensio's cross. Asensio later capitalized on the lead in the second half, side-footing another one in. Celta, unbeaten since November 21st, rarely posed a threat without their top scorer, Iago Aspas. The victory has lifted Real Madrid 1 point clear of Atletico Madrid at the top of the table. But Diego Simeone said sides still have 3 games to play. In the English Premier League, Arsenal hammered West Bromwich Albion in their encounter at the Hawthorns. Meanwhile, Brighton drew Wolverhampton Wanderers in a 6-goal thriller. Details in the following report. Defender Kieran Tierney put the Gunners in the lead in the first half, followed by Bukayo Saka capitalizing on the lead. Alexander Lacazette added the third and fourth goals after the break to seal the 4-0 win for Gunners. With the third league win in a row, Arsenal have moved to 11th place on the table with 23 points. Lewis Dunk's header helped Brighton come from 3-1 down to earn a point against the Wolves. The draw leaves the Seagulls only 3 points above the relegation zone. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace beat bottom club Sheffield United 2-0, ascending to 14th place with 22 points. Jeffrey Schlupp and Eberechi Eze scored the 2 goals for Palace in the first half. In another fixture, Tottenham Hotspur thrashed Leeds United 3-0 at home. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.